On this edition of the Emmy Award-winning Forbes Sports Money, legendary athlete Bo Jackson talks about a new way to train for sports.
If I had this when I was growing up, I'd be a bad man. I would have been a bad man.
As we explore the multi-billion-dollar business of youth and amateur athletics.
Your kid's not even going to make it onto a high school team unless they are training, sports-specific training, early in their career.
We'll take a look at the economics surrounding the Winter Olympics and find out which NBA teams are on top and which ones aren't. It all starts right now. And hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Forbes Sports Money. Bob Lorenz and Michael Ozanian with you, as always. We're also joined by Chuck Baker, a partner at DLA Piper's Global Sports and Media Practice. So we're going to start, guys, by talking about NBA valuations, because, Chuck, as you know, Mike's been at the office crunching the numbers 24 hours a day, right? What'd you find in the NBA?
Well, the NBA is doing great. You know, the average team is now worth $634 million, 24% more than last year. And I think the most impressive thing when you look at the league right now is almost every team is making money. The average operating profit for the league was $24 million. That's by far the most since we've been tracking NBA finances. The Bobcats even made a profit. The Bucks, another low-revenue NBA team, they've been looking to raise money. I'm wondering what you think, given the new collective bargaining agreement and the increase in the amount of money. I think for the current season, there's going to be around $200 million that's going to be shifted from the high-revenue teams to the low-revenue teams. That's about $40 million more than 3 years ago. What type of impact is that going to have on the Bucks? You know, what do you think that team could be valued at?
So when you take a team like Milwaukee, which typically is at the bottom of the rankings in terms of value, and have a possible liquidity event with Senator Cole talking about selling the team, bringing on Greenberg, Steve Greenberg at Allen & Co. to do so, you know, to have imagined 2 years ago that it could possibly fetch a number starting with a 400 million plus would have been unimaginable. I think today, despite how difficult Milwaukee is as a market and the fact that, you know, the league has basically given them until 17 to straighten out their arena situation, which is currently, you know, not compliant with NBA rules, I think, you know, you may have somebody coming in at north of $400 million.
And you still have, though, the local media rights and the stadiums in the big markets really creating a big separation in value, though. You look at the Knicks at $1.4 billion, the most valuable team. They've spent about $1 billion renovating MSG over the last 3 years. Another advantage of that is they get to deduct every year a portion of that expenditure on the Garden from what they'd have to share with the other lower revenue NBA teams, which is one of the reasons why the Knicks are the most profitable team. And, of course, the Lakers with that new cable deal with Time Warner Cable, $122 million last season, by far more than any team in the NBA. Speaking of cash flow, what about the league's international prospects? NBA China, we know in 2007, when they were raising money, the league was raising money to start it, was valued at $2.4 billion. I don't think it's quite worth that today, but is the league bringing in money from China, or is Europe a better area for the NBA? How do you see it?
And Mike, that's a great question. I think China's difficult to parse. So while I agree with you that they got a great valuation when they went out with NBA China, I think what they're finding is the sledding is a little tougher than they expected in China. The facilities are antiquated. A lot of the best Chinese players are coming to play either in Europe or in the U.S. I think that there are a tremendous number of fans in China, and I think what they bank on in China is Chinese fans watching U.S. basketball. So they've done a deal recently with Sino, which is both an internet as well as a distribution site on other mediums. They reach a tremendous number of people. They have a tremendous number of Chinese fans watching NBA basketball. I think Europe, truthfully, will happen much sooner, if you will, in terms of a team playing there than China will. And as Adam Silver said recently, you know, Europe is the next frontier. The Hawks and the Nets sold out O2 in 4 hours, okay? Sir Paul McCartney, other royalty were there. The game gathered rave reviews, great television audience. And Adam Silver said at the press conference, he said, you know, it started with the NBA global games. They were exhibition games, morphed into 2 games a season. I suspect that increases. And Adam said, you know, I don't see one team here. I see, you know, a division here, 6 teams. They'll go to the big cities, London, Munich, Paris, and some of the others, and set up a whole division there. I frankly, and I may be wrong, see that happening much sooner than I see sort of actual NBA teams playing in China.
All right, guys, we're going to take our first break. Chuck will be back later in the show with us, by the way, as well, to talk about the Winter Olympics in Sochi. But up next, the growing business of youth and amateur sports when we return on Forbes Sports Money. And welcome back to Forbes Sports Money. While professional sports get most of the media attention, youth and amateur sports are also big business. And like their professional counterparts, youth sports are becoming more competitive and specialized. Travel teams, tournaments, and sports-specific training today resemble more closely the major leagues rather than the pickup games of yesteryear. And with communities increasingly unable to afford investment in equipment, fields, and training facilities, the private sector is stepping in and raising the bar. One such entrepreneur is Pathik, whose consulting company, the Sports Facilities Advisory, provides the financial brain and management legwork for sports tournaments and facilities like Bo Jackson's Elite Sports, a sports business that's set for national expansion. Michael Ozanian traveled out to Lockport, Illinois, to take a look at the newest step in the evolution of youth and amateur sports and to discuss this multi-billion-dollar business for our Sports Money profile.
How has the mindset of parents changed since the time when you and I would come home from school, change our clothes, and, you know, whatever season it was, that was the sport we played, to where we are today impacted this industry?
Well, I mean, listen, you have a lot of parents who are dreaming and hoping that their kids are going to get a college scholarship, whether it's baseball, it's football, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball. You know, parents who are looking at the cost of college education are starting to look for solutions. They see their kid have a little bit of talent and they think, you know, maybe I should dedicate a little more resource to this. So parents have decided to spend money, and they've continued to spend money. Even through the recession, we had parents who were not go out to dinner, but they'd continue to spend money on their kids' participation in sport. So that's a shift, the parent being truly dedicated to the development of their athlete when they see just a glimmer of hope, you know, a little bit of talent. That's one shift. The other mindset of parents, I think, that's shifted is that now they know their kid, your kid's not even going to make it onto a high school team unless they are training, sports-specific training early in their career. Unless they are, you know, an extraordinarily talented athlete like a Bo Jackson, a kid who's going to try to make it onto a high school team in the hopes that perhaps they'll make it into, on a college team. They're going to need to start sports-specific training earlier. And that is a big shift from the time when you and I were kids and we just go out in the street and play, or we, you know, play 2 or 3 sports.
When you look at the growth of this industry in terms of facilities, money raised, the youth that participate in coming to these facilities, what do the trends suggest?
I don't think this is a fad. Youth and amateur sports has gotten increasingly more competitive. We have more and more kids participating. Parents and I think our society now dictate that kids are going to be in structured activity, whether it's art or sport. But in the sports world, I think we're going to see an increased amount of participation, this continued privatization of the sports industry. And now I believe the trend will be that technology will attract sponsor revenue and advertisers to the market. You know, traditionally these facilities have been for the local community, and the number of eyeballs that a sponsor can get has to do with the number of door swings in an individual facility. That's going to change as we have grandparents now watching online games of their kids. You know, their grandparents are in Omaha and they're watching kids play in Florida or play in Cooperstown. That's creating more eyeballs, it's more online exposure. So now we're seeing the attention of major corporate sponsors and advertising, and I believe that's going to shift the industry significantly.
How many facilities have you overseen in the construction of since the inception of your company?
We've done, in total, we've done about $4 billion in youth and amateur sports complexes. That means that we have analyzed, planned, helped to fund, open, or manage somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 different facilities. This year alone, we'll do 1.5 million square feet of indoor facilities and 800 acres outdoor. We'll buy more turf this year than anyone on planet Earth.
Is this trend expanding outside of the United States?
It is. I mean, you see sports tourism in particular. Throughout the Caribbean, we did the opening of the National Stadium of the Bahamas this last year with the Carifta Games. That was 25 Caribbean nations coming together to compete in Nassau. Throughout the Middle East, you see new developments coming online, and many of them are dedicated to youth and amateur competitions or collegiate competitions.
So the number of deals that you're talking about, it's not just for training facilities, it's also for places where they have competitions like baseball tournaments?
That's exactly right. So there's a bigger expansion in those competitive environments. We're seeing more sports tourism, more competition venues, more tournament venues. And following that, of course, are developments like Bo Jackson's Elite Sports, where athletes get the training they need to be able to compete at that level.
How is the trend between having a sports training facility like this with sports tourism, where you have tournaments, merged over the last few years?
Well, I think you'll see that right now you have all these government entities pouring money into new developments, tournament destinations, right? They say, well, if we build this tournament destination and we host 70,000 athletes in a year, we're going to fill our hotel rooms, we're going to fill them on weekends, and on those weekends, the hotel bed tax, the tax that's associated with that, is going to pay back to the government more than the government has spent on that new tournament destination. So there's a wildfire movement right now across the country. In a normal day, we'll get 5 or 6 calls from different municipalities hoping to do that sort of thing. But that's filling the need for tournaments. But remember, all of these kids now are playing in tournaments with very little training resources. You know, the training has been that you get in a batting cage for a few hours, and then you leave there and you go down the road and you go to your fitness membership. And because of your fitness membership, you can work out, you can lift weights. There haven't been places like Bo Jackson's Elite Sports where an athlete can get all of that in one place in one period of time. That's what's so unique and different about that. That's why there's so much demand for this throughout the Midwest. You know, cities calling to say, can we have a Bo Jackson's Elite Sports facility? And financiers and investors saying, how do we get involved? Folks can see that we're really on the leading edge of this.
Up next, we'll discuss this growing sports business with the man, the legend, Bo Jackson.
Who is that guy?
And welcome back to Forbes Sports Money. Well, Bo Jackson is best known for being a legend in 2 sports. His marketing campaign with Nike, known as Bo Knows, became an indelible part of pop culture and helped launch the CrossFit craze. Well, after a hip injury sidelined his sports career, Bo used his popularity to help him compete in the business world, including the creation of the 88,000 square foot multi-sports training facility dome named the Bo Jackson Elite Sports Complex. If anyone should know what the future of multi-sport athletic training is, it's probably Bo Jackson. And in order to find out more, Michael Ozanian sat down with this living legend for part 2 of our Sports Money Profile.
What was the first thought that came to your mind when the idea of building this facility was presented to you?
This is going to be a hit because there isn't anything in the country like it. And being in the Midwest, to where during this time of year, all of the summer sports are dormant. They are hampered because the facilities that the athletes are training in are too small. They're in garages, they're in warehouses to where they're having to practice around columns in the middle of the room. And every time I walk in this place, I'm like, wow. If I had this when I was growing up, I'd be a bad man. I would have been a bad man.
Youth sports have become so much more specialized over the last several years. How does this facility help the people that come here deal with that?
Another word that I would use besides specialized, more competitive. Everybody wants an edge. Everybody wants the newest, the next best thing. The competitive level in youth sports now is astronomical. For example, the day of the 2 to 3 sport athlete is gone in our book for this simple reason. If your kid's in high school and he's a basketball player, he plays on the football team, he plays baseball. Well, if he's trying to work to be good in all three of those sports, he's gonna end up riding the bench in all three because the competitive level is so great out there that there's always gonna be somebody out there that's gonna be working a little harder than you, making the competitive, having that competitive edge. We never try to deter a kid from doing what they want to. We can give them our advice. And if they take it, fine. If they don't,
What do you spend the most time thinking about when it comes to this place?
I hope the dome is still inflated. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But just the fact that almost on a weekly basis, we are implementing new programs to make this facility better.
Is that a challenge to this day that you still put on yourself?
Every day. I always wake up with the attitudes that I'm gonna do something better today than I did yesterday. One way that I personally do that is I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me because I don't know everything. People say Bo knows, but Bo don't know everything.
Was there a particular moment here where you said, you know what, that tells me that this thing is going to work and it's going to be successful?
Yes, when we get other municipalities calling us, wanting to meet with us because someone has gone home and told the city council in their area, hey, you need to see this facility. We need this here. I would brag about that. We are doing something right. And the world should know about it. We are doing something right.
This facility's been up and running since 2008. What type of feedback have you gotten from some of the kids who've come here and then have gone on with their lives afterwards?
Well, not only from the kids, but from the parents. The letters that we get from kids that have come through this program and have gone on to college. A lot of kids have gotten scholarships. We have kids that got major league contracts that have been through this facility. We got those college kids, we got those professional athletes that live in the area. They come back to work out during the winter, during this time, during the off season. So at any given day, you can walk through here and you could see a major league baseball player either taking batting practice or out on the field taking ground balls or doing their thing.
For Bo, the chance to interact with and mentor kids is more important than the profit generated by the business. While the facilities cater to families that can afford travel teams and expensive athletic equipment, Bo's also opened his doors to at-risk disadvantaged youth through his Give Me a Chance Foundation. Bo's hopes are that sports can do for them what it did for him. He's never forgotten that his journey started out in Bessemer, Alabama, living in poverty with 4 brothers and 5 sisters. He was so mischievous and tough that his family referred to him as a wild boar hog, which they eventually shortened to just Bo. It's Bo Jackson's belief that anyone can become a champion given the chance.
It gives me gratification to know that not only myself, but the people I have surrounding me, that we are doing something to benefit someone's life. We're opening doors for people that probably would have never gotten those doors open for them. We are making a difference in a lot of young people's lives. That gives us more gratification, but on a personal note, more so than hitting a 500-foot home run or running a 97-yard touchdown run. I get more gratification from sitting there reading that letter from that parent saying thank you. Thank you, thank your foundation for what you've done, because we wouldn't ordinarily have the opportunity. My child, you have given my child hope. You've given our family hope. Thank you. And And it's just as simple as that. The reason we all do this is because of letters like that, is because of people like that. It's all about giving back. It's all about giving back.
Well, don't go away. We'll be rejoined by Chuck Baker for our State of Sports discussion on the Winter Olympics coming up next. Great to have you back once again on Forbes Sports Money for our State of Sports discussion. Chuck Baker is back with us. So guys, the Winter Olympics. You wish it could just be about the fun and the games. This year, though, in Sochi, Russia, it could be a lot of different layers here, Michael, in terms of the many news stories, Russia's stance on gay rights, the real threat of terrorism. We could be looking at a lot of stuff here.
All of that, Bob, plus the fact I think in Sochi we have palm trees growing. So, you know, to hold the Winter Olympics there is quite a challenge. Yeah, I wonder, both from Russia's standpoint and from NBC's standpoint, how much risk is involved? I mean, God forbid, should something happen there, what does this do in Russia? I think they've spent about $50 billion on infrastructure getting ready for the games. And NBC has spent $775 million on the broadcasting rights to the Winter Olympics. For both of these, how do you look at the risk-reward ratio, Chuck?
So let's take that in the order you put it. So Sochi spent $51 billion, I'm told, getting ready for the Winter Olympics. So unlike Summer Olympics, where if you have a track and field, you can use it for soccer, you can use it for another sport, to build a luge, to build a bobsled run, to build a ski jump, chances are it's going to get used once in a lifetime. The most expensive thing that goes into hosting an Olympics for any host city is building the facility and the infrastructure. That number is more than double what the Chinese spent at $180 billion. It's a staggering amount. Now, there are those who have alleged there's some corruption in that. Putin has obviously denied that. I think it will be, regardless of how they're able to repurpose those facilities, I think it will be virtually impossible for Sochi to make money. Montreal, host of the '76 Olympics, they spent $2.7 billion. It took them 30 years to pay back that debt. How this is ever recouped, hard to imagine. NBC, on the other hand, they went into this to make money, okay? They went into this both for the global audience as well as to make money. They spent $775, as you said, Mike. They sold $800 million worth of advertising as of around January 13. They cut off taking new advertising just in case they don't hit their ratings number, which they anticipate to be around a 10. Mark Lazarus has stated that number will go higher. I suspect that NBC, which is doing round-the-clock coverage, round-the-clock live coverage, it spilled over into the news division, obviously, given the gay rights points that you made, the terrorist threat that everybody's aware of. It's become, some of these ancillary things, they become the story themselves. And so for NBC, but for the reputational risk if something goes wrong, okay, those make it a bit more exciting. So I think that NBC could actually do quite well here. Yeah, you really do believe that the news division will be almost as busy as the sports division at times.
I do. See, I think there's more risk for Russia in the sense that their costs have already gone over budget by 500%.
Staggering.
So I think for them, they really want this as a showcase that Russia is a modern, safe country. As far as NBC, I think Chuck hit it on the head. You look at, they have multiple channels, CNBC, MSNBC, NBC Sports. They're going to have 1,000 hours of live programming online. I think that's huge. And I think that what this tells me is they're already going to make a profit in advertising revenue over and above what they spent to broadcast it. But I think if you look at what they're going to get on other programming for news and stuff, it proves that their decision to go live with programming, which some people criticized them a lot for before the London Games, I think that was the right business decision.
To me, it seems like the right business decision. I still argue, and I think we've seen this, that sports is DVR proof, okay? You want to watch a football playoff game, you want to watch the Super Bowl, you don't want to see a tape of that. You want to see it live, okay? And I think NBC's decision to carry this sort of almost 24/7 live is the right one because, while they'll continue to show highlights, I think fans want to see it as it happens because that's how, that's why people watch sports, for the sheer, excitement of the moment.
All right, guys, a lot of interesting angles for this year's Winter Olympics. We have run out of time. Chuck, thank you for being with us. That will do it for this edition of Forbes Sports Money. As always, we thank our guests, and we thank you for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.